The most notable thing about this episode is how, based on IMDb ratings, this is the worst episode at this point in the show so far, and apparently there won't be an episode worse than this one till next season. Therefore, we can see that the consensus is that this episode is like really not good, like exceptionally so. And this was odd to me because I didn't really remember this episode being particularly bad when I last watched the show, unlike the cutie pox. So let's watch this episode again together and see if it's really that bad, or if it even is bad, or if it is there anything salvageable from it?
Attention! The official Rainbow Dash fan club will come to order.
This episode starts off with a good note, as in, at least we're getting some solo Scootaloo stuff. A sticking point I had in the last few episodes that involved the Cutie Mark Crusaders was that she's the only Cutie Mark Crusader that's been left out of an episode where the other two appeared in. Not to mention how we had a Sweetie Belle episode and an Apple Bloom episode right after, and we just skipped over Scootaloo. So it's a little very refreshing for her to be the only Cutie Mark Crusader in this episode, with Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle not being present at all. This seems like good revenge on the episode Sister Hoof Social, where it was the opposite. Then again, the Cutie Pox also had a fantastic beginning, just for the rest of it to, you know, not be fantastic, so let's not count our chicken before all the eggs hatch. But on the other hand, it is a bit strange how the other two Cutie Mark Crusaders aren't here when this is their shared collective treehouse. Anyways, Scootaloo and Snips argue on what the best adjective for Rainbow Dash is, and
I motion that we declare her wonderific,
Astonishing!
breathtaking,
Astounding!
bedazzling.
What about super ultra extreme awesome amazing?
All in favor of declaring Rainbow Dash the most super ultra extra, whatever you said, pony in all of Ponyville, say I.
it's easy to point out how it's stupid that despite being a Rainbow Dash fan club, nobody here was able to recognize her voice. But I like to see this as a metaphor for how we sometimes get so caught up in arguments that don't actually go anywhere or have any real merit, just to ignore the best possible thing in plain sight. Whoa, is that a Nine Cat reference? It would seem to line up since Nine Cat was one of the most viewed videos of 2011, and this episode came out as the year was coming to a close. So that makes sense. Except not so fast, because this exact design was first drawn in 2008, a whole 3 years before its inclusion in this episode. Then again, the original version doesn't take place in space like Nine Cat, so I don't know, man. You be the judge, but I guess we'll never know. Oh well. But speaking of well, Rainbow Dash saves a child from a well.
I'm Rainbow Dash, and I'm here to rescue you!
What this kid was doing to fall in is beyond me, and how she's still in one piece and relatively unscathed, even after falling into the depths of a well, is also beyond me. But on the topic of Rainbow Dash, it's quite an interesting decision to have 2 Rainbow Dash episodes in a row, but sure. That reminds me of how there were 2 Rarity episodes in a row in Season 1. Anyways, this episode goes on to show Rainbow Dash saving more ponies' lives. Wow, nice repeated scream. This results in the town's ponies applauding Rainbow Dash. With her pulling this insensitive joke off?
Oh no! There's something wrong with the baby! She's not cheering for every pony's favorite hero, Rainbow Dash!
Wow, that has the same vibe as...
Mom, Dad, Bart's dead!
That's right, dead serious about going to Itchy and Scratchy Land.
Anyways, the disturbing thing is that chances are, if this is happening here, where Rainbow Dash just so happens to see and do something about, that means that there's probably similar things going on elsewhere where she isn't there to see and help. But speaking of seeing things, this is the first time in the series where an infant pony design is shown. And it leaves a pretty good first impression in that... Yeah, those pictures that were taken just now could result in some really out-of-context articles.
There just aren't enough words in the dictionary to describe Rainbow Dash's awesomeness.
I can think of a few new words.
What's new word? This line only makes sense due to Applejack completing it.
And I bet modest is not one of them.
How was Twilight going to continue on with her observation if not for that? Especially when the scene ends with her saying,
No, but she is kinda awesome.
so she didn't even get to finish her thought. Whoa, is that the Ponyville retirement village mentioned by Spike a few episodes ago?
Are you that one kooky grandpa from Ponyville Retirement Village?
That's kind of neat to actually see in an episode, but I wonder which of these guys is the kooky grandpa Spike was talking about in particular. Probably none of these guys, since Spike set this in interpretation of Twilight's costume, where the primary showcase is the beard. Therefore, the implication is probably that the kooky grandpa Spike was referring to has a beard kind of like the costume. Anywho, as a result of people seeing Rainbow Dash save lives, her ego starts to creep up a little.
I can't hear you!
As opposed to her blushing earlier in embarrassment from the attention. That's pretty good visual storytelling. Good job. I just sure do hope this episode doesn't do anything to immediately do bad visual storytelling.
I zoomed into the well. I knew it would be dark and dangerous. Thinking back on it, I acted pretty awesomely heroic that day. Awesomely heroic that day and awesomely arrogant ever since.
Welp, I like the implication that it's been a few days since her heroic attempt. Wait a second. No, I don't like that. There's no other indicator of how much time's passed besides that one piece of dialogue. There's no proper transition to indicate how long has passed in between these events. All we get is this fade transition.
Silly, but I think this whole hero thing might be going to Rainbow Dash's head. You may be right. Silly.
Therefore, we don't really get a taste of how much Dashy's ego must have grown in between or anything along those lines. Like, all the transitions we get are these fades. And so are each of these supposed to be a new day? Because the episode does not do a good job denoting how much time's passed between these transitions.
Hey, Applejack, how would you like to be immortalized as my friend? Immortal what?
Yeah, not like they already were immortalized as friends since they saved the world from Discord together. Or heck, even before that apparently.
I've been hoof-picked by Rainbow Dash herself to write her autobiography.
Autobiographies are supposed to be written by the pony they are about.
Maybe for your normal run-of-the-mill ponies. But I'm far too busy saving lives to stop and write.
That's a good point. If she's actually saving lives, then I wouldn't mind if she relegated autobiography duties to somebody else. If anything, that's more humble. If the rhetoric here was to make Rainbow Dash seem egotistical and unauthentic by making somebody else write what's going to be published as her own writing, it doesn't even really work. Not only because she literally just admitted this in front of her closest followers, meaning this isn't even supposed to be hidden information, but also because a better way of showcasing her ego in relation to an autobiography would have been to make her get busy with writing it, about just writing her own life story rather than going out and saving lives. What would have been a better way to get across what this episode's trying to convey here? Oh, I'm going out saving lives, Spike, could you write my autobiography, please? Or, I'm awesome, the world needs to hear about my personal story. I'm busy writing my autobiography. Saving lives can wait. Her reasoning here seems genuinely reasonable.
But I'm far too busy saving lives to stop and write.
Also, Spike has body parts that actually allow him to write with ease, so it makes sense she wouldn't write it. I mean, sure, we see Rainbow Dash signing autographs, but that seems like it'll give you neck pains if you write an entire book like that.
That's why I hired Spike as my ghostwriter.
Spike's a ghost!
I like how this mention of a ghost scaring Pinky may be a reference to how we've seen that she's a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to the paranormal.
The zombie pony?
Zombie pony?
On multiple occasions, sorta.
Everyone, listen up some candy and get out of here!
Which is a cool callback and all, but then again, one of the first impressions of her in the entire show involved her encouraging us to not be scared of those. Ghosts in particular, as a matter of fact.
Giggle at the ghostly, guffaw at the grossly.
So, yeah, no, I don't know. I do love how the entire room just goes silent to process Pinky being stupid.
Anyway.
Like, that's so unnecessary, but it's funny. And it's probably like the little things like that that make me love the show so much. But on the topic of her fans, it would have been hilarious if one of these ponies donned the Falcon sweater from last episode. I mean, some of the Rainbow Dash merch these guys are wearing have the design of her concept cutie mark, so an additional Easter egg like that would have been really funny. Not that that's a make or break detail by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just that sweater must have ended up somewhere, right? I would hope that Rainbow Dash didn't just throw it out. At least we seem to get a callback that isn't immediately contradictory with this line.
Don't you think you should go and help?
Yeah. I've got a good 10 seconds to spare.
Hey, I could clear this sky in 10 seconds flat.
Anyways. Okay, this makes me wonder. How the hell was that balloon popped? Was this an inside job with Cherry Berry being paid off by Mare Do Well, or was this just coincidental timing? That Rainbow Dash just so happened to be there, and Mare Do Well just so happened to see, and this balloon just so happened... whatever. Because that kind of popping does not seem normal. And on that topic...
I dubbed this new masked hero the Mysterious Mare Do Well.
Did Mare come up with that on the spot, or was she also paid off by Mare Do Well? That seemed oddly quick to think of a whole name for the superhero.
Mare do well, huh? Well, that mare would do well to stay out of my way.
Roasted. That's worthy of a fire writing gift. Well, because Rainbow Dash still wants to feel useful, she goes out looking for things to help, only to cause more trouble than fixing things. Very interesting how Rainbow Dash has had near-death experiences 2 episodes in a row now. Anyways, Mare Do Well shows up and fixes Rainbow Dash's mess.
Oh, for the love of Pete.
For the love of Pete? Well, why and how is that a term that exists in this universe? I'm pretty sure the Pete in that phrase and the one in for Pete's sake stems from Saint Peter from the Bible. So what's with all these last few episodes with implications that Christianity exists in this world? Not to mention, how is she not surprised at the fact that she literally just witnessed a new alicorn? But with that, now we're at the part that rubs people the wrong way about this episode.
That Mare Do Well sure can pull off some pretty heroic feats.
Yeah, I was impressed by that spell she used to fix the dam. She really cares about every pony's safety. Have you seen her costume? It is to die for. If you ask me, she's a hero of fashion.
And she's modest and humble. She lets her actions speak for themselves.
We'll come back to all this, but just keep that in mind. For now, Rainbow Dash therefore tries to one-up Mare Do Well by trying to look for problems to solve.
Where's an out-of-control vehicle when you need one? There are absolutely no freak natural disasters going on anywhere. How am I supposed to prove myself when everything's so normal and safe?
Yeah, that worked out excellent for Ponyville the last time somebody went out of her way to look for a problem to solve.
Hi, girls.
Some pony's in trouble.
Also, strangely, even though in Sisterhood Social, we saw Amethyst Star being somebody else's sister, even though that somebody else, Dinky, was speculated at the time to be Derpy and Dr. Who's child, making this very weird. The fact that we see her with a different child pony here would seem to imply that this family is still intact, with Amethyst just being a babysitter or being in some sort of older sister program. Problem solved. For now, at least.
Another great feat of heroism. I have just saved that grass.
From what?
From weeds. Weeds that were attempting to eat this lawn.
Lame.
The roasts are on fire this episode. I don't know if you guys have ever been roasted like that by a child before, but it's happened to me and it stings. I do some volunteer work around children sometimes, and they give off like very blunt roasts like this. So I think this might have ironically been the most realistic piece of dialogue in the entire show so far. Anywho, then we get this whole diatribe.
Have I changed? Same sleek body, same flowing mane, same spectacular hooves. Nope, I'm still awesome. They're wrong. But then why am I all alone? I hate being all alone.
Well, that's relatable. Anyways, Rainbow Dash follows Scootaloo.
Hey, Squirt! Wait up!
And
Welcome to Ponyville's first, but surely not last, thank you parade in honor of our city's greatest hero, the Mysterious Mare Do Well.
yeah, I'm pretty sure this will be the last one, but we'll come back to that later also. What, the AI-generated text? It's a little stupid how a couple episodes ago we had this line,
Is it an O?
meaning that they have like the alphabet that we have, but oh well. Also, it seems like Lavender Fritter is trying out a new hairstyle. Anyways, when Rainbow Dash catches up to Mare Do Well, the big twist is that there were 3 of them.
There were 3 of you?
You know, the twist of there being 3 of them is actually a really good subversion to the whole like chase cliche where like the person that someone's chasing like appears in like different hallways. Yes, while that's always done to be comedic, it sort of breaks the immersion sometimes if it's very unrealistic or if it makes no logical sense for you to be here and then all of a sudden you're here and blah blah blah. However, with the twist that there's 3 of these guys running around, that's a really good subversion to the cliche. And this is a pretty good example of why I think the show's writing is very distinct from other shows. Then again, I don't go out of my way to watch shows for 8-year-old girls. So I don't know, maybe every little kid show is like this. We also get an explanation of what's been happening and...
We all played Mare Do Well at different times.
I stopped the carriage bus with these babies.
I used my magic to fix the dam.
Ooh, ooh,
like the flyby afterwards. I made the costumes. Fabulous if I do say so myself. I saved the construction workers with my pinky sense.
I do like the return of the pinky sense, but honestly, this was probably put here more to be a reference to the spider sense than anything resembling continuity, judging by how this episode was practically written to be an homage to superhero tropes and designs in general.
It's great to be really good at something, but it's important to act with grace and humility.
Yeah, and it's also a good thing to be proud of your friends as well. This feels like a crabs in a bucket situation. Wikipedia describes this as the mindset of people who try to prevent others from gaining a favorable position, even if attaining such position would not directly impact those trying to stop them. It is usually summarized with the phrase, "If I can't have it, neither can you." The metaphor is derived from anecdotal claims about the behavior of crabs contained in an open bucket. If a crab starts to climb out, it will be pulled back in by the others, ensuring the group's collective demise. The analogous theory in human behavior is that members of a group will attempt to reduce the self-confidence of any member who achieves success beyond others out of envy, jealousy, resentment, spite, conspiracy, or competitive feelings in order to halt their progress. That literally sounds exactly like what the main six are doing in this episode.
Sounds like you've got a letter to write to Princess Celestia.
As your ghostwriter, I've already penned a letter to the princess. Okay, let's hear it. Dear Princess Look out! It's a real ghost!
So, what was the whole point of involving Spike in this situation? Besides to basically bully Spike for being Spike? It's not like we even hear Rainbow Dash's letter, so it's not like she had any particularly insightful, unique perspective to add about the situation. So as far as we know, she's gonna say the exact same thing Spike just said. So what's the point of this? Poor Spike. I actually like Spike. Yeah, that's right, I said it. I like Spike. And this ends so abruptly that who knows what happened to that celebration thing. Did the main six get back into costume and go to it? Or did they just leave the ponies there hanging? But speaking of the lesson, let us take a look at how this episode is remembered. Like I said earlier, this episode was the lowest rated episode on IMDb at the point of its release. So I looked around why for the reason, and I was able to compile the most common arguments by scanning through a bunch of old threads and forum posts about why this episode is not that great. So I'll just relay those along with my own thoughts to strengthen the arguments. But I shall bring up points if I disagree with them if need be. Not all of this is my opinion, but I'll make it pretty clear when it is and when it isn't. First of all, the main six, more like the manipulative six, the main six's ingenuity to create Mare Do Well basically had no other motive than to undermine Rainbow Dash's accomplishments. Genuine accomplishments involving saving babies' lives, by the way. And by doing so, just because they thought she had an ego, they pretty much gaslit and betrayed her for all intents and purposes. Furthermore, them doing this makes the episode itself feel like it's negatively portraying these guys through bad out-of-character writing, since one could argue that the episode pretty much makes them jealous and mean-spirited rather than being supportive of their friend, and also being the ones to accuse Rainbow Dash of being the jealous one.
Sounds like some ponies jealous.
Who, me?
Rainbow Dash is jealous.
Don't break that, Spike!
Correction. Rainbow Dash is very jealous.
Now, what I gotta say to this is that if the motive of the main six trying to get back at Rainbow Dash was purely out of jealousy and impatience, I actually wouldn't mind, since that seems pretty in character for most of them, because we've seen evidence of most of them exhibiting jealousy, or at least comparison to others, and impatience in previous episodes.
Hey there! Huh? It's later! I'm jealous! I wanted all the attention, and instead it was going to you. I even started hoping that you would do something silly so your modeling career would be over.
So if those were their motives, and that was made clear, fair enough. I would have zero problem with this. It's just that the episode tries to tell us that those were not their motives, and they're the good guys in the story with pure hearts of gold that set the moral example of the episode. But let's just say, hypothetically, for the sake of argument, they weren't fueled by ulterior motives, and they genuinely had pure motives, and Rainbow Dash was actually inconsiderate and egotistical. Even if the episode literally started with Rainbow Dash going out of her way to step outside of a comfortable position just to help someone,
What a beautiful day. There's nothing like a dip in the clouds to make a Pegasus feel super relaxed.
Looks like my sky swim will have to wait.
Even that's stupid because that would imply that the prime example of what you're supposed to do in a situation like this is to make people like that feel bad about themselves, even if it results in them becoming depressed and cutting themselves off from socializing.
No! No way! Can't you see I want to be alone? I love being alone.
But just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, yes, we're all responsible for our emotions. No, the things that happen to us are out of our control, but the way that we choose to process them is within our control. So yes, I guess it's sort of Rainbow Dash's own fault if her ego is bruised and this is how she chooses to handle things. But the thing is, on the other end of that, her friends aren't even checking up on her to see how she's doing. Which, yeah, just brings me back to the original argument. Her friends just conspire behind her back and don't even check up on how she's doing mentally. So even if the devil's advocate was true, it still wouldn't excuse her friends for, like, not checking up on her. That's not cool. It's also a common complaint that the main six, instead of directly addressing Rainbow Dash's behavior and telling her to knock it off and that it's getting on their nerves, decide to create a whole freaking superhero persona with its own costume and all that. When this whole thing could have probably been resolved through something along the lines of, I don't know, an open dialogue and empathy and understanding. Now, in my opinion, this is made worse when we literally had an episode where the characters learned that communication is key in friendship, especially when that was one of my more favorite episodes of the first season. Therefore, the main six are hypocrites. Well, that episode didn't involve Rainbow Dash. Exactly! You know who it did involve? It involved Rarity and Fluttershy learning communication.
All this time! If we just told each other the truth.
I promise never to keep my feelings a secret again.
Me too.
Twilight observing for herself how frustrating it is when friends don't communicate.
Of course she did, because
And with Pinky tagging along. And even though Applejack wasn't really involved in that episode, she's the element of honesty, so I don't understand why she wouldn't communicate honestly. Therefore, if anything, that episode just completely contradicts this episode. I don't know, I thought that was kind of dumb and made the main six hypocrites in their own right in this episode. It's like they just skipped plan A, B, C, and then just jumped all the way to like plan K or something. One point I see brought up here and there is how, because this was post-Trixie, the girls could have just compared her to Trixie and see if that does anything. Especially when Rainbow Dash was also sick of Trixie's boasting.
There's no need to go strutting around and showing off like that. Oh? That's my job.
Now, I'm not saying that would have necessarily made Dashie back down, but if she didn't back down from that, that would have built a better case of her friends going to more extreme degrees with the creation of Mare Do Well. But the issue is that the episode tries to make us feel bad for Rainbow Dash.
Oh, who am I kidding?
And the fact that I even said it was relatable earlier probably doesn't help too much with getting us to not side with her. And on that note, it could be argued that Rainbow Dash did nothing wrong. Sure, you could argue that Rainbow Dash was acting egotistical.
someday I want to be just like you.
Aim high, kid, but don't aim for the impossible.
But she literally wasn't hurting anybody, and these ponies wanted to look up to her. Also, even if she was hurting people, with all the factors that we have in this episode, it would have been unintentional, since her heart was clearly in a place of wanting to save lives. If anything, her friends were terrible friends for literally talking behind her back. My overall point is that I don't trust the main six's motives for acting the way they did, and I'm on Team Rainbow Dash. But that's obviously not what the episode was going for, meaning that for me, at least, and it seems like a lot of other people, this episode failed to do what it set out to do. But on the positives, there is a lot I will give this episode. So just how the background ponies have improved so much, especially juxtaposition of the previous episode, and how that one had literally 0 background ponies, well, besides Derpy. To have an episode where they not only appear, but have multiple voice lines that directly impact the plot is awesome.
I've never seen such bravery in all my life.
And I think a first for the show, not counting like special secondary characters. Now, this is how world building gets done, to just show us what's going on in the lives of normal people in town. I guess we'll see if the show actually goes on to, actually do things with that. That aside, I mentioned this already, but I really like the humor this episode has to show.
Well, Mare Do Well, or should I call you Mare Do Slow?
That and how we get some new facial expressions in the animation, which are cute and not terrifying like we saw in the last episode. That considered, this isn't the worst episode of the show by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a little, confusing on character motivations. Probably because it was written by a first-time writer on the show, Meriwether Williams. Then again, this woman's other episodes aren't really the most well-remembered ones by fans either, so maybe there's a pattern there. Just to offer my own solution for what it's worth, I think the most satisfying possible way of ending this episode would have been to have the main six admit they may have gone a little bit far with what they did, yet conclude the thing with Rainbow Dash deciding to also also join the Mare Do Well persona to help ponies anonymously from now on. That would have solved both sides of the conflict. Would Rainbow Dash still have been the victim? Yes, because she's being cheated out of like the glory she deserves. And if these people eventually get fatigued by her, that's a lesson that the main six should have just left Rainbow Dash to learn on her own. But just considering all the factors and where this episode led, yeah, I think that's like as good as it's gonna get. However, it seems as if the real victims of this episode are the citizens of Ponyville. They were robbed of an actual hero, and we don't ever see the return of Mare Do Well either. That ceremony truly was the final one. So the main six, besides Rainbow Dash, gave the ponies false hope by introducing them to this like all-knowing and everywhere all at once superhero, just to completely abandon them right after teaching Rainbow Dash a lesson by being hypocrites. Now, it would have been awesome to see the main six, including Rainbow Dash, do side missions dressed up as Mare Do Well in future episodes, or at least get passing mentions of it, but we don't, so yeah. But what did you think? Do you agree that this episode is like really bad, or do you think it has like some salvageable bits, or do you think it's actually pretty good? I'm very interested and eager to know what you guys think of this episode, so definitely let me know in the comments.